We will now continue with the question and answer session. And this first question comes via fax from Ecuador. And it goes like this. To what degree do you believe that there is a fusion or a sense of coming together with regard to characteristics among the generations in both the developed and developing countries?
I think there is no doubt that there is some awareness among individuals of the millennial generation of their international reach and their global commonalities. I don't think there's a total fusion yet, but I think it's definitely headed in that direction.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the next question, I believe, is coming from Mexico. Is that right?
How have, for example, the company's vision and vision, for example, been affected with these different generations?
Oh, I think that that's just starting to be something that is happening. I think companies are not always using the different generations they have in their workforce to create a new global vision. And I think that's something that, to the degree it can happen, each generation brings something different to the business, and to take all those and use them together to craft a larger business plan or vision is, I think, something that more companies need to do.
All right, great. Thank you. And our next question is also faxed in from Yucatan, Mexico. And this is the question. You spoke about the reduction in birth rates. Will this tendency continue in favor of the millennial generation in terms of our workplace dynamics and generational change?
Yes, there's actually very little doubt that birth rates will continue to fall in most of the world. And that will have some impact on millennials because they won't face quite so much competition from younger generations. So I think that's actually more resources. Fewer births means more resources for existing generations, and I think that's going to continue.
Thank you. We go to Mexico again for our next question.
Technical difficulties with this question.
Okay, we have a technical difficulty with this question. All right, so let me go to one of our faxed questions, and this is a question that goes like this. Does Ms. Susan Mitchell consider that it would be useful to implement surveys in various countries to identify the differences between millennials globally?
Absolutely. I think we've sort of touched on this a little, but I can't emphasize enough that everything we talk about are large trends, and they do impact everyone, but the way it plays out is at the local level. And there are exercises, there are things that you can do, each group can do, to look at their individual typology, if you will, to look at how different generations locally are interacting globally, or how they look in comparison to the larger global generations.
Okay, I think now we are ready for our question from Mexico. Go ahead, please. Okay, well, let me ask you one of my favorite questions that was faxed in from Panama, actually, until we were still trying to get Mexico online. So, are millennials better international negotiators and peacemakers than those of other generations?
I think they're too young yet to play that role in a big way, but I think they have potential to be very important in resolving a lot of international conflicts, ethnic conflicts, local conflicts even, because they do understand each other across those global boundaries. And hopefully, as they get older, as they become more mature and gain the skills that one needs to really do well with that kind of effort, negotiations and the like, I think they will be very effective in a way that perhaps older generations found more difficult because of cultural differences.
But they also migrate and travel more than
That's right. They have literal familiarity, not just it's not just a matter of reading about something or, learning about things in the abstract. They've actually been to other countries and other cultures.
All right, great, thanks. Now we go back to Mexico, Chihuahua actually, and go ahead, please.
Experiencing some technical difficulties. I apologize.
All right. Still, okay, we're still having technical difficulties, and so let me...
we seem to have the question back.
Okay, are we ready? All right, very good. Good.
Adelante, por favor. My question is, what would be the tendency of behavior when we have two generations in a workplace, the millennial generation and the Generation X? This in terms of multicultural changes and technical aspects as well.
Great question.
Great question. Because they're very close in age, because they came of age at a similar era, there isn't the wide gap there is with some older generations. They're going to have a lot of similarities. But unlike Generation X, the millennials grew up with technology. They have actually had it from birth, whereas Generation X was a little later in life getting a lot of these things. They're both very good, but millennials may actually have a comfort level that's greater than Gen X, and this could cause some problems, probably.
So what kind of problems are we talking about in terms of people being able to understand each other and work together, or is it staying separate but equal?
I don't think they'll be separate. I think they will work together. I think it's a good blending. These two groups will blend together well. But I think there's just enough difference that millennials could have the advantage in some respects, whereas Gen X might be a little less comfortable with a lot of technologies. The millennials may have a little greater degree of comfort, and it could set up some conflict in terms of jealousies or competing for the same jobs. But mostly, I think these two are very much alike. And the diversity of the millennials is also a hallmark of Generation X. The global outlook is the same. So I think those two generations could work very, very well together.
Okay. And now let's hope that our line to Mexico is open. Go ahead, Sinaloa, please.
Good morning. I would like to hear your opinion in regards to the impact on the millennial generation on the recent international news. I'll state exactly. First of all, this attitude presented by the U.S. president in Iran, and the last aspects that we've seen in the Kyoto Protocol and the way that they've handled these greenhouse gases. What is your opinion in this regard?
How does the millennial affect international relations? Let's put it that way.
I think that one of the best things about the millennials is that because they have some global connections across these boundaries, they are not defined by what a particular world leader or national leader says. So regardless of what President Bush says, the millennials will form their own opinions and they're incredibly supportive of the environment in the U.S. as well as other places. So I think that the millennials themselves are going to be different, much as the millennial generation in Iran is different. They're not part of a U.S.-led effort. They're resistant to that, nor do they fully support their own government. They have their own ideas about things. And I think this is one of the more hopeful things because the millennials worldwide can get together in ways that their leaders may not even anticipate or support.
Okay, great. Thank you for your excellent questions, but we have run out of time